Hey guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about a case that happened in Italy in 2022 involving an adult film actress. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. Carol Maltesi grew up in Sesto Calenda, a small commune with just over 11,000 inhabitants located in the province of Varese, Italy. She was half Italian and half Dutch and arrived in Sesto Calenda at a young age. Carol studied at the Fiorini Moda Technical Institute during her youth, and in 2016, the year following her graduation, she had a son. After that, Carol moved to Milan, where she worked as a saleswoman in a perfume store, but due to the 2019 global health crisis, she ended up losing her job. At that time, she was 26 years old, and according to friends, she was desperate and had a child to support. Carol then had the idea of creating a profile on the adult website OnlyFans. In addition to OnlyFans, Carol also participated in some film productions aimed at an adult audience. She also performed in live chats, in which she performed sensual dances for anyone who would pay. Carol used the pseudonym Charlotte Angie, and according to sources, she earned more than 10,000 euros a month. According to friends close to the woman, she was a lovely, kind person and a dedicated mother. On social media, Carol presented herself as a model and posted several photos of herself and her daily activities. She described herself as a mother who liked to travel, posting photos of trips to Easter Island, the United States, Australia, Morocco, Spain, and the Netherlands. She also posted many photos with her son, whom she called Little Man. In one of the photos with him, she wrote the following: 4 years ago, I became your mother, and since that moment, you have always given me great satisfaction. The woman also participated in several virtual campaigns against violence against women. She believed that psychological violence destroys women emotionally and that very little is said about it. Due to Carol's profession and also her lifestyle of traveling a lot around the world, some people said that she was not a good mother. Regarding this, Carol responded by saying that what they had was prejudice and that she was a great mother. In the year 2021, Carol began a relationship with a man named David Fontana. They first met on Instagram and then arranged to meet at a hotel. David was 44 years old, a banker, and also a blogger focused on the gastronomy niche. He maintained a cooking and photography blog on the internet as a hobby. According to people close to the couple, the two maintained an open relationship. However, the man was seen as obsessed with his girlfriend and no longer wanted her to continue producing adult content. Furthermore, David was also jealous of the woman's visits to her son when the son was in Verona at his father's house. As time went by, David started to exhibit jealousy towards Carol's friends and even her father figure. In fact, Carol was invited several times to spend a vacation in the Czech Republic and also in France. She would spend these holidays in the company of her son and also her father, but David never permitted it. Their relationship became more and more troubled. They split up and reconciled multiple times. On January 10th, 2022, Carol Maltesi was last observed in close proximity to her place of residence in Milan, Italy. After that, the young woman stayed missing for a period of 2 months, with no one having any idea of where she could be located. Several family members and close friends reached out to Carol, expressing their desire to meet up with her, as they mentioned they had been missing her. However, the woman simply responded that she was feeling tired and needed a break, without mentioning her location, which was quite strange and left others curious. As I previously mentioned, Carol was an extremely active individual on social media and used to create posts on a daily basis. However, throughout this 2-month time frame, she was entirely absent. In March of the same year, approximately an hour away from Milan, a man who was walking in a mountainous region stumbled upon a human body contained within plastic bags. He immediately contacted the police and informed them of his discovery. The body was dismembered and quite unrecognizable due to the advanced state of decomposition. Furthermore, the person responsible for that atrocity burned the victim's entire face with the clear intention of making the reconnaissance work more difficult. the victim can only be identified through her tattoos, which numbered 12 in total. Once authorities removed the dismembered body from the mountain, it was taken to the morgue, where photos were taken of all the tattoos. These images were released in the media with the authorization of the police. The intention was that the images would reach someone who could recognize the victim through these tattoos. Among the tattoos, there was one with a spotted leopard print on the upper part of the right thigh, and another with the words "Step by Step" also on the right leg, and "Wanderlust" on the right shoulder. The tattoos were quickly recognized by Carol's followers, who soon took to her social media to try to understand what was happening. These same fans sent several messages to Carol to see if she was okay. When Carol started responding to all of them, saying that they weren't supposed to worry and that everything was fine with her, many fans were relieved. However, shortly afterwards, it was discovered that this was all a hoax. It was not Carol who was answering the messages, but David, who was in possession of her cell phone. It was even David who responded to messages from Carol's family and close friends, pretending to be her and saying she was on vacation without mentioning her location. He would also have told these same family and friends, posing as Carol, that she was tired of the adult content life and that she was going to stop, but first she needed a vacation to clear her head. In the midst of this, a friend of Carol's, who was suspicious of the situation as she had known her for many years, asked her to send an audio message, claiming that she missed hearing her voice. From that moment on, David, knowing that this would not be possible, decided to no longer respond to messages from Carol's friend. The man knew it was only a matter of time before this friend, along with Carol's family, went to the police. And since he was her boyfriend, he would be the first person that the authorities would look for to give a statement. With that, David decided to anticipate the process, hoping they wouldn't suspect him, and went to the police to report Carol's disappearance. In his statement, the man told several fantastical stories about his relationship with Carol, and right from the beginning, he started contradicting himself. First, he claimed that Carol had traveled alone without informing her family, but she informed him. Afterwards, he said that he and Carol had been separated for months and that he didn't know anything more about her life. The police found this information strange and questioned him about the fact that they had been separated for months, and yet the woman had informed him, and not her own family, that she was going on vacation. At this point, David, who was already very nervous, tried to give numerous justifications that were clearly being invented at the time. This made the police officers even more suspicious, and after being pressured by them, David ended up confessing to the crime. In his confession, David told the police that he had met Carol on Instagram, and as he liked photography, he took some sexy photos of her. He said that at the time they met, in October 2020, he was married and lived with his wife in Milan, but later he decided to leave his wife to just be with Carol. On the day of the crime, the couple was engaged in a kind of violent, erotic game between them. They recorded everything with the intention of turning it into an adult film. In the act, David kept Carol without clothes, with her feet and hands tied, and with a plastic bag over her head, while he struck her. It was then that he took advantage of this moment to pick up a hammer and start attacking Carol even harder. The man then cut the victim's throat with a kitchen knife, taking her life. Still in his confession, David told the police that the blows he gave Carol with a hammer were not meant to really hurt her. According to him, things ended up getting out of control, and when he realized Carol was very injured, and to end her suffering, he took the victim's life. David told the police that he had filmed all of this, but that he later deleted the images. The crime would have occurred between January 10th and 11th, 2022. After taking Carol's life, David cut her body into several pieces and then unsuccessfully tried to burn it on a barbecue. Upon realizing that he would not be able to get rid of the body by burning it on the barbecue, David decided to freeze the remains in a freezer that he had purchased on Amazon. About 70 days later, he removed the remains from the freezer and took them to Brescia Mountain in Borno, where he threw them off a cliff. There were 4 plastic bags in total, bags that were found several days later. The distance from David's house to this mountain is more than 62 miles. During this period of 70 days, David, who was in possession of Carol's cell phone, pretended to be her and responded to numerous messages from the victim's family and friends to make it appear that she was alive. Posing as her, he responded to most of the messages saying that she was tired of the adult content life and that she intended to stop it. At the end of his confession, David claimed to the police that he had no intention of taking Carol's life and that everything was an accident. According to reports, during this confession of his, David had several nervous breakdowns. As per police, David committed crime as he realized that Carol was drifting away from him. According to the investigations, David knew that Carol had plans to leave Italy to move to Eastern Europe soon. From that moment, the notion of losing touch with the young woman, whom he supposedly loved, didn't make any sense to him anymore. Moreover, based on the inquiries, the police discovered an online buying history done by David. He had obtained a freezer, an axe, and a metal saw, which were utilized to cut and conceal the body of the victim. The police considered the possibility that David had the help of another person to commit the crime. However, no evidence was found of another person's involvement in the crime, and as a result, the police concluded the investigation with David being the sole accused. During his time in police custody, awaiting trial, David underwent a mental evaluation, which concluded he had no issues or concerns. This indicated that everything he did was of his own free will and not due to a mental disorder. David Fontana's trial took place in July 2022 at the Busto Arsizio court. Despite the prosecution asking for life imprisonment, presenting numerous pieces of evidence that showed how cruel David was, the judge responsible for the trial did not accept 3 aggravating factors that would have increased the defendant's sentence. These aggravating factors were premeditation, crime by cruel means, and futile motive. Thus, instead of David being sentenced to life in prison, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the crime against Carol Maltesi. According to sources, it is very likely that David will not serve his entire sentence and will leave a few years early. Regarding this, Fabio Maltesi, Carol's father, said that if David really leaves before he has served his sentence, he will be out here waiting to settle accounts with him. The victim's father added that David is a psychopathic monster who deserves to rot in prison. David Fontana is currently serving his sentence in a prison in Brescia, Italy. Carol Maltesi's case had a huge impact in Italy. Soon after the news about what had happened to her spread, her social networks were bombarded with insulting messages and bad jokes. Many of these comments blamed her for what had happened to her and mentioned her career as an adult content producer. Some people even claimed that if she hadn't gone down this path, she would still be alive. A well-known Italian comedian called Pietro Diomedia even published a joke on his Twitter profile related to the fact that a woman's body was recognized by her tattoos and not by her private parts. This obviously generated a wave of messages of rejection and criticism from some people towards the man. And this was the story of Carol Maltesi, an Italian woman who had her life taken by her own boyfriend in a brutal crime. Good folks, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching me up to this point, and we'll see you in the next video.